Hello there guys, welcome to another video. Now where in the world is Melania Trump? Now that question has been hovering for months, really. Ever since Donald Trump announced his latest run for the White House, she's actually been missing. Now while he's made countless court appearances, she's remained largely out of sight, except when legally required to attend. She's also been absent from the campaign trail, notably missing from public events and rallies. But now she's actually re-emerging, and what she's chosen to say might complicate things for her, maybe still husband. We're breaking it all down in this video, ladies and gentlemen, the unexpected statement from Melania and the ripple effects it's having on Trump. But first, a quick favor please, if you already haven't, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us to continue to deliver updates like this, okay? Now let's jump into the latest Melania Trump development, starting with a pointed comment from Jasmine Crockett that put her squarely in the spotlight. Take a look at this clip.
I'm confused as to why my Republican colleagues aren't talking about the lack of integrity when it comes to the president's family's visas. Let me remind y'all that Melania, the First Lady, a model, and when I say model, I'm not talking about Tyra Banks, Cindy Crawford, or Naomi Campbell level, applied for and was given an EB-1 visa. And what that stands for is an Einstein visa. Now, y'all that don't know, let me tell you how you receive an Einstein visa. You're supposed to have some sort of significant achievement, like being awarded a Nobel Peace Prize or a Pulitzer, being an Olympic medalist, or having other sustained extraordinary abilities and success in sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics. Last time I checked, the First Lady had none of those accolades under her belt. It doesn't take an Einstein to see that the math ain't mathin' here.
If you're looking for contradiction within Trump's time in office, and trust me, there's no shortage there, you won't have to search for long. Just take a look at his inner circle. Nowhere is the self-dealing, shady dealings and outright exploitation more blatant than within Donald Trump's own family. His presidency has been marked by profiteering and influence peddling at the highest level. Trump has consistently enabled and excused the powerful and privileged as they bend the rules in their favour, something he's done himself time and time again in both his businesses and personal life. Now this behaviour isn't limited to how Melania ended up in the US either. It also involves the company she kept once she arrived. And yes, somehow the Epstein connection surfaces yet again, setting the stage for a major revelation we're about to explore right now.
The birthday letter that Donald Trump apparently wrote for Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday, and this idea that they shared a wonderful secret. What do you think he's referring to?
I think that he is referring to the girlfriend that they shared at that point in time, 92, 93. So there was a woman, and as far as I know, she's not underage, but who they literally shared, who literally went back and forth between these two guys.
And she went back and forth in the same bed with the two of them? Was it a threesome, or she was dating both of them separately?
I don't know the mechanics. I know that during the same period, and they openly, this wasn't hidden from either one, they openly shared this particular woman, that she went out with both of them at the same time, and they both understood.
Yet again, we find another thread tying Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. Shocking, right? Hardly. There have been whispers about how Trump and Melania were first introduced, and it's being suggested that the initial encounter, now let's just call it that for now, allegedly took place aboard Epstein's infamous jet. It's also been rumoured that Epstein had a significant amount of footage involving Trump, not just paperwork or files that the DOJ and FBI are desperate to keep buried, but actual video content. It's that footage, not the documents, that authorities seem especially eager to keep under wraps. likely because it contains highly incriminating material. But that's a conversation for another time, okay? What matters right now is what Melania has just come out and said, something that's thrown fresh fuel on the Epstein fire, which we're going to dig into right now. Melania 1 billion lawsuit threats silence critics but amplifies Epstein news. A new legal front has opened in the Trump's family never-ending war with the press, and this time it's First Lady Melania Trump at the centre, brandishing an eye-popping 1 billion defamation cudgel. Her legal team is threatening lawsuits against anyone who dares so much as mention her name in proximity to Jeffrey Epstein's. The fallout has already been swift. The Daily Beast removed an article featuring author Michael Wolff alleging that President Donald Trump met with Melania Trump through an Epstein connection. Wolff claims that the two met in 1998 through ID Models founder, who himself had ties to Epstein and his partner Ghislaine Maxwell, and further contended that Melania was very involved in the Epstein social circle. On Tuesday, Wolff addressed the matter in an Instagram reel that was, in his own words, threading the needle very carefully. In the clip, he recounted how the Daily Beast pulled out content over a letter from Melania's lawyers. James Carville deleted his own material which made a similar connection, and others backed away from the topic entirely under the looming shadow of $1 billion litigation. Even Hunter Biden, not exactly a stranger to political controversy, spoke about receiving a similar warning from Melania's lawyers. What this is, Wolff said, is an effort to thwart, stop, frustrate anybody who is out there trying to make that connection. You can't, or you're going to get sued in a way that is going to be just incredibly costly, burdens that you can't bear. Wolff, a reporter of occasional dubious repute, but with deep sourcing on Epstein, who interviewed the disgraced financier extensively, framed the legal blitz as a chilling tactic. Whether or not you take him at face value, the effect he describes is obvious. People are pulling down commentary about the First Lady and Epstein out of fear of facing astronomical legal costs. Now, it's worth stressing here, there is no evidence that the claims Melania is fighting against have any merit. In fact, the core of the story of threatening lawsuits to silence the press is less about the truth of any allegation and more about the unmistakable optics of her legal strategy. If the aim of all this loyally saber-rattling is to keep Melania's name out of the same sentence as Epstein's, then this is a paradoxical campaign. By threatening billion-dollar lawsuits, a comically large figure, the First Lady's lawyers have ensured the story will reach a much larger audience than before, yet media coverage will now focus less on the underlying claims and more on the lengths to which it will go to shut them down. It's the classic Streisand effect, named after singer's unsuccessful effort to suppress aerial photos of her Malibu home, which only brought far more attention to the images. Attempting to bury a story can sometimes cause it to bloom. In this case, people who might have never connected Melania Trump to Epstein are now aware that such a connection is something her lawyers are working overtime to block. By launching a wave of lawsuits aimed at silencing anyone, possibly even like me, who dare to speak out on this subject, Melania is actually drawing even more attention to the very thing she seems desperate to bury. Not just her own alleged tie to Jeffrey Epstein, but Donald Trump's as well. And yes, there was a connection. It's pretty hard to deny at this point. Now, they'll make a lot of noise about what kind of relationship it was, and maybe I'm choosing my words carefully here to stay out of any legal trouble, but what's crystal clear is that they don't want the public digging into this. That much is obvious. It's precisely because they fear the scrutiny that Trump keeps trying to distract us with. Manufactured chaos, one after the other. His recent move to tighten his grip on DC is just the latest example, and it's already blowing up in his face. Now watch this next clip to get an idea.
10 years ago, conservatives across the country were completely convinced that then President Obama was secretly preparing to impose martial law. It was a wild and crazy conspiracy theory. And that belief was prompted by the fact that 10 years ago today, the U.S. military was a few weeks into a military exercise called Jade Helm. Now, what Jade Helm actually was a pretty standard 8-week military training exercise that happened to take place across Texas, New Mexico, California, and other southwestern states. But because Barack Obama was president, conspiracy theorists seized on the fact that the military was going to be in Texas, again, doing these exercises, as proof that a hostile takeover was planned, that this was all about a hostile takeover. Now, rather than calm that completely unfounded conspiracy, conservatives fanned the flames. Republican Senator Ted Cruz said he understood the reason for concern because, quote, the federal government has not demonstrated itself to be trustworthy in this administration. He was, of course, talking about the Obama administration. Other Republicans insisted that the map of the fictitious exercise be changed so that Texas wasn't labeled as hostile. Again, this was just a military training exercise, something that is quite standard, that all the branches of our military participate in. But Texas's governor at the time, who, believe it or not, was still Greg Abbott, man, that guy's been around doing damage for a long time, ordered the state guard to go monitor the exercise, using taxpayer dollars to send troops to watch the training exercise. That is how hair on fire Republicans were just a decade ago, about the unfounded, very remote, not even real possibility that the President of the United States might be calling the military into American cities. Now fast forward to today. Check out how Republicans are responding to Trump actually sending troops into an American city.
What's happening in D.C., this is easy. President Trump is showing bold and strong leadership.
Hopefully, this is a harbinger of what we see in these liberally run cities across the country. We need to send in the troops, which is exactly what we're doing.
We're going to support this. We're going to support doing this in other cities if it works out in Washington, D.C. I think that this is an experiment that's probably needed in a lot of the Democrat-run cities in America.
Do they even have a belief system? I ask myself often. I mean, Republicans aren't just okay with Trump using the military these days to take over the nation's capital, a city, by the way, where they all spend a fair amount of time as members of Congress, of course. They want this experiment repeated in cities run by Democrats all over the country. That's the whole plan. That's the goal. Meanwhile, the actual residents of the city Trump is trying to take over are definitely not aligned with that viewpoint, and they are pushing back. This was the scene at the intersection of 14th Street and W Street in Washington, D.C. last night. So to give you a sense, this is a neighborhood full of restaurants and bars, and lots of people live there. Bystanders chanted things like, "Get off our streets," "Go home fascists," and "Read the Constitution," at a bizarre mix of federal law enforcement officers and local police who are now under Trump's control. Those officers had set up a checkpoint where for about 2 hours last night, they stopped dozens of cars and detained at least 2 people. Federal agents reportedly stopping cars for things as minor as seatbelt violations and broken taillights. Not sure that's really cracking down on crime. And then asking drivers, of course, about their immigration status, which is probably likely what this is all about. Now, some bystanders reportedly ran into a CVS to quickly make signs, warning others that ICE was ahead and directing drivers to turn left to avoid the checkpoint. You can see one of the signs there they're holding. A group of passengers in a rideshare vehicle rolled down their windows and shouted to the crowd, letting them know the questions law enforcement was asking their driver so that the crowd could then warn others who were coming behind them. Someone else blared Vanilla Ice's classic song, Ice Ice Baby, A+ points for creativity from the sidewalk, while others shouted advice to drivers, encouraging them to ask for badge numbers or remain silent.
This is classic Donald Trump, a phony display of strength that we all come to expect. He doesn't actually care about reducing crime or keeping people safe. Now, there's no real policy behind any of it. It's all about the appearances. Trump wants to look like a hardliner when in reality he's anything but. It's also important to keep exposing that false image. That's exactly what we'll keep doing on this show, okay? If you want to help us keep pushing back, don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and if you've made it all the way to the end, please drop a blue heart in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you.